This is Behind the Coffee, podcast by Grey Soul Coffee Roasters. I'm Chirag, your host and roast master. Sit back and enjoy.
I'm strolling along, just minding my business, humming a song. I'm happy by myself, not a care in the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Coffee. This is episode number 3. I'm your host, Chirag. Today, we have a guest by the name of Ram Chetan. So, Ram Chetan here is a planter, a coffee roaster, a Q&R grader, and also has a lot of expertise when it comes to brewing coffee related to technology. So, hi Ram Chetan, welcome to Behind the Coffee.
Thank you.
Thank you for making this trip and coming all the way from Bangalore. So, a little bit of an introduction about Ram Chetan. Me personally, Chirag, I have often been asked a question that why Grey Soul, or how did I start Grey Soul, or how did it all come to be? So I always tell people that curiosity and passion is what led me to start coffee roasting or become a coffee roaster or engross myself into farming, coffee roasting, and this beautiful product that we all enjoy today, which is coffee. But along with that, it was never easy. Curiosity and passion could only take me so far. But then I remember that I used to knock on a lot of doors because I always had a lot of questions. So one such door led to Ram Chetan, and I believe that I had a long list of questions for you, and then you never hesitated and you gave me your time, and you have answered all these questions, and probably you till date do. So curiosity, passion, and never shy away from asking as many questions as you want to, because that's how you learn, or that's how you learn as an outsider who I was. So thank you for being here, Ram.
So, I'm Ram Chetan. So, majority of them call me Ram, and that's what it has been for the last many years. And I've been here for the last 15-20 years in the coffee industry.
Okay.
I come from a coffee farming family itself, from the plantation. That's where my childhood days, naturally born, brought up, spent the time besides the plantation. And with a little bit of a change in the professional curriculum, I opted in for this field. So, yes.
This as in the coffee roasting?
The coffee into the coffee line.
Okay.
So, it all happened just as a slight change in the thoughts and the ideas. Instead of pursuing the management course, I just went in for a coffee diploma. And then on, the interest and the passion, what was there, just got into the working mode. And then it's been a continued journey all these years. So yes, from the plantations into the next role, which was into the cafes, and then on into the roasting besides the machine, spent a lot of time. And that's where I think, most of the travel timings and most of the people and a lot of...
That part of your life is exactly when we also met.
Yes, right. So I think that's one of the significant time where the industry was evolving, and had an opportunity to work with a lot of people, interesting projects. And even I too learned a lot at that point of time. So that's where you can call it, into the roasting.
Yeah.
And over the last few months and so on, just moved it into the next phase of it, which is now into the brewing part and into the equipment line. So now, more into the technology connect into the brewing.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure you're leaving a lot of details behind, considering knowing you are a very modest person. So do you want to shed some more light? Like, do you want to break that into timeline, like when exactly you started, and when did you move from farming to roasting, or you're still doing farming today and now brewing? So you want to put a timeline to that?
Yeah, I would put it like this. Where it all started was sometime in 2004, 2005. That's where I just finished across my bachelor's, and then I was just looking to pursue a management course, MBA, in Bangalore. And I come across a certain ad which was placed by Coffee Board of India regards to a PG diploma, which was a 1-year program. And basically coming in from last bench from the college, yeah, never wanted again just to go into a formal class. And at that point of time, yes, I think the management course was on a uh, full-fledged happening mode. A lot of management schools were opening, and the course was something which was most preferred at that point of time.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I wanted something different by then. So this coffee board diploma was some new interesting subject, and the confidence in me that yes, I know more of a coffee by seeing the plantation and spending a lot of time.
So before that, were you involved at the farm level, or it was just like
Never.
education?
Never. I spent all my life over there until I finished my bachelor's and all that. But yeah, never put my hands on it, onto the field and all that. Yes, I was involved in moving around the farm, doing some farm works and all those with my parents, with some of the farm managers, workers. But never ever thought that I'll be again coming back into it and doing it in a very different approach and all that. So yeah, this changed, and yeah, after a year of diploma program, that's where I just give a thought into it. What do I do next? And that was a stage where I just got into the brewing industry, which was into the cafe lines.
Okay.
And yeah, that
Fast was about 2 years, 3 years.
yeah, I think the first thing where I spent my time was with Barista Coffee Company.
Okay.
So that's something which molded me across into this line, and
Barista is in the chain of
the chain of cafes.
phase. Okay.
So yeah, that was at the early 2004, 2005, and two prominent coffee companies in the Indian market: Cafe Coffee Day
And
Barista Coffee Company, and then a few small cafes here and there.
Yeah.
But yes, I think with the professionalism what the company had in, the kind of coffee what they were looking in across, and a passion to just work with the industry, coffee connect, all this is something which molded me across to be coming into this line permanently.
okay.
That was the early days, I would say.
Yeah. 2005
Yeah, 4 and 5.
course done. Then you moved and joined Barista.
Yes.
And then how many years were you there?
Yeah, I was there almost like 5 years with the company.
5 years.
So yeah, that gave me a different approach, a role where I handled across starting behind the counter and also taking care of the coffee roasting quality.
Barista working at Barista company.
Yeah, of course. At that point of time, there was one standard: whoever joins the company
Uh-huh.
has to work behind the counter at least for a bare minimum of 15 days.
Oh.
No matter what position, but it was important to know how a cafe functions and what happens behind the counter.
It's a good thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a formal way of induction.
Oh, nice.
So I still remember the orange color and the blue jeans. That's been the uniform across, and yeah, you like it at some stage, once you start wearing it and everybody are with the same uniform, same colors. So that's how our team is built.
And then post Barista company, what did you end up?
Yeah, post Barista, it was into the next move into another cafe, but this time it was a little shorter instinct. I spent some time in Mumbai.
Okay.
Probably a year or a year and a half in Mumbai, setting up some cafes for another corporate and starting it from zero. A large corporate which was into telecom, oil, shipping, steel, and yeah, one of them very passionate to get into coffee with the store-in-store concept at a time where this mobile phone handsets were coming out into the market.
Like the smartphones.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I still remember those days where Sony Ericsson phone was very prominent.
Yeah, even I had that one with the cyber shot camera.
Exactly, cybershot, and a very good quality of the music, which was, I think, the beginning of that mobile craze. And one of the model I still remember, which was the first touchscreen which was introduced by them.
Okay.
So yeah, people used to come in to buy all this smartphone and all that, and the thought process was to have in a small kiosk or a small cafe setup to give in that experience. And yeah, that was the start of the second project.
Oh, so it was like a cafe inside a mobile
Right.
shop,
Yeah.
store in store. That's a innovative thought.
Yeah. So yeah, the instinct of working over there was a little short term because one of those biggest company had to face across a global recession at that point of time, and basically this being a new project came to a standstill. And then for a couple of years, as I went back to Bangalore and was working independently, helping out set up some coffee shops and all, and which also involved a lot of travel into different places across India.
Across India.
Yes, different place, different states, north, east, west, south, and that gave some time and room to talk, see things, how it is progressing, uh, the market evolving into a better space, newer thoughts. And similarly, yes, I was involved with the trainings and all that in various places. And then, someday after that, into a next field,
And that was
roasting.
And from roasting, now you have moved to technology and brewing and machines.
Right. Yeah. So yes, if I take a look into this, a lot of time spent with the coffee in the field, talking to people, moving around, and all that. But where you're heading across and what you want to do next. So yes, I've spent time in the farm, in the plantations, then with the cafe, and significant time in roasting with a lot of projects. And I think more than everything, it was a good phase of a time which I spent over there, both inside the company and into the market. The market was evolving big time globally.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah,
That time is when everything started to pick up.
yeah. Roasting at that stage was more into the commercial lines. When I got into the company, the roasting machines were going to the roasteries, which was just on commercial operations. Just roast the coffee, have it dispatched, send it out to the markets wherever there's a cafe, where there's a mass consumption, or to the retail markets. So the specialty was very, very small. It was very niche, very gourmet. Select companies were having standards. Global companies were approaching with a lot more of a standardization certifications. I think that was the only special thing. Not specialty, but special. But slowly after that is where the industry evolved into that specialty micro lots, and delivering that one or two prominent characteristics, very, very strong and bold in the cup.
Yeah, I think back then with the roasters, the technology was also at a very nascent stage, right? Like if you compare the Series 1 with Series 3 today of the roaster, there's a lot of difference, I guess.
Yes.
Of course, you could use third-party applications and things like that, but I think the roasting or roaster as a machine has also evolved a lot now. It has a lot more to offer, a lot more programs, a lot more calculations, a lot more mathematics that you can do to eventually get a better cup.
Right.
Was there a trend of sample roasting or using smaller roasters than bigger roasters? Was it this evolved, or like you said, it was more commercial focused?
Right. Yeah. So here, to touch upon that or to mention, when I got into this industry, roasting, that was much more interesting. So, right, the machine were less technically built across at that point of time. I would say the domestic machines.
Yeah.
More of a reliability was on the person, or with the skill of a person who was roasting coffee. So he was fully dependent. I would say like the company used to depend fully on a roast master rather than on the machine at those stages.
So basically, you can hear
Coffee roast master.
judge based on
The role of coffee roast master was very, very prominent.
Yes.
Was very solid in charge for the complete roastery or the roasting unit.
Yeah.
So most of the industry relied on him.
Yeah. Also not a term that is used more often nowadays. It's not a roast master anymore.
And I was young by then. So you just explain the machine. Yeah, people listen to it, but end of the day, it was always a school where they believed that the person is more interested, and it is more about the art which he can create and the experience what he carries across. And that was how the industry was by then. So people were dependent on the roast master. Of course, there was some machines with some controls, time, temperatures, and what more. But the familiarity the hands-on was all done by the roast master.
Basically, a lot of experience, a lot of time spent with the roaster is how you could
Correct.
get a better outcome.
Right. And the decisions at those stages were like, if the roast master is comfortable, yes, then that's how the machine gets approved.
Yeah.
If the machine is having too much of a technical stuff to control, adjust, maintain, clean, yeah, I think maybe that's not a right choice now, maybe for the future. So that was a kind of a perception in general in most of the small and medium-sized roasting units.
So back in, let's say, 2011 or 12, whenever you joined the whole roasting part of your life, so how many roasters were getting sold that time versus how many roasters were sold when you last were doing this?
So yeah, I think I still remember there were like 2 or 3 machines getting sold with great difficulty
In a year?
in a year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so these machines are the shop roasters, which is of a capacity of like 12 kilos or 25 kilos.
Okay.
Back then, the gourmet roasters for specialty coffee or the small batches like 5 kilos were never used. It was always like 10 kilos, 12, 15, 20, 25. This was a very prominent batch size machines which was running in the market. And of course, people had a different way of approach: roast 10 kilos, roast 20 kilos, and then use it for the blending. Those times were the blended coffees, not a straightforward single roast, single origin coffees.
Creation of blend is not that easy, according to me. Having the right roast of different coffees and having the right blend of those coffees and then having a very good final cup. I feel blends are still more complicated than a single origin coffee, I feel.
Correct. It is. It was complicated. It is complicated right now. That's how I would put it. So, and where this blending was mainly, predominantly or traditionally, if you see, it was into the South Indian market, where the filter coffee markets or even those cluster markets, depending on the South Indian states and the regions. Even today, every cluster, which is like a 50-60 kilometer distance from each and every city or the place, is different.
Check.
So with the roasting, with the blends, with the combination of coffee, what is going into those blends, it's all different.
So it was these 2-3 larger roasters that were selling at that time. And then 10 years down the line, what was the number?
It was 2-3 which was selling in the very initial days, and the very last days, exactly 10 or 11 years post that, somewhere around 35 machines
Annually.
Yeah, on an average of 30 machines a year inside the Indian market.
This was ranging from a P5 or 5 kilo to a 25 kilo.
5 kilo, a small batch, which was good in numbers, followed by 12 and then by 25. So if you see, the trend was a little different. In an inverted way, where the 5 kilo, the demand for the 5 kg or the smaller batches were very high. People wanted to roast smaller batches, precise batches.
Not also that, I think for a roaster who's just starting out, it makes sense to reduce your capex investment or start with a smaller roaster and then move on to, from what I've seen, you start with a 5 kilo roaster and then you move on to a 12 kilo roaster. So the initial investment, especially in a new business, is why I think a lot of people end up choosing a 5 kilo roaster as opposed to, and the small batch, of course. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I think, yes, that's one of the ways how people decide upon. And also on the market and the business, what they are starting across. So, as you know that the first 1 year is always a challenge to sell your coffee.
Yeah.
And the first few months is always about getting your hands on into the roasting.
Yes.
Getting the coffees right. And eventually you need to sell to earn back. So you need to spend a lot of time. So initially, yes, that's the first step, is looking into what is that right model or the right size or the capacity that you need in, and choosing across that right capacity with the workflow, how you want to plan it out, and what target you want to approach in the market, and accordingly executing it. So 5 kg fits in for somebody starting across, spending the time hands-on, experimenting with the small batches flexibly, getting your coffees right, and then taking it to the market to sell it. So 5 kg is the most flexible option. And it can deliver that volumes as well for the first few years.
So Ram, looking at your experience and the different stages of life you've been in, today's episode 3, focuses on this one particular topic, which is called 360-degree approach into Indian coffee. But it's not just one topic. When I say 360-degree approach and looking at what you've been through and the different stages of life, today we are going to talk about the farm level experience of yours and the processing that happens at the farm. Moving on to your chapter of roasting, Q&R grading, then moving on to your the barista phase and the brewing phase, and then of course your current phase in life, which is technology and technology in brewing. So I think it's good for the audience of the podcast also for someone like you to give a hands-on experience of what exactly you've been through, because I think you are one of the few individuals I've met who have done everything, like right from farming to roasting to brewing and now technology in brewing. I think that is what is the life cycle of Indian coffee. So wonderful to have you. Let's start our discussion. So my first question to you is a very simple question, which more or less you have already answered, but you mentioned something about you seeing an ad of Coffee Board of India and then the urge to join that particular course. So was that the only reason why you got into coffee? Like, was that the main reason that you wanted to get into coffee, or that was the only reason how your career into coffee started? Or was some credit given to your family-owned farms and the farming business as well?
Well, I would put it like this actually. So back at the family or at house, what is next after graduation? So I said, at home it was like, okay, pursue something next.
Okay.
So it was something next. And I was deciding upon the management course, but this was something which came in between, surprisingly. And it was all fine with everybody that getting into this line. And I believe back, there was some kind of a confidence which was already injected into it, knowing that you're coming in from a coffee growing background. And that, I think, made it more comfortable to get onto this line. One. And
so it was a comfortable decision, not necessarily becomes easy for a person who comes from a background.
Right. So it was a comfortable decision, I would call it. And second one is, this course, today education, it's about learning. So automatically when you know this, it is a stage or the phase where you start learning across.
Yes.
And be it anything which you want to learn, it's about the interest. So I think I was comfortable with that and started to learn, and that's where I got inclined more towards this. There was that comfortable part which was always there, so a little easygoing. And
so for most of us, I think exposure, like I remember when I was passing out of 10th grade, like what are the options I had? So the options you have is either your friends tell you or people around you tell you. I don't feel that we have a lot of exposure when we have to make a big decision in life. So in your case, I think you had the exposure when it came to coffee. So again, it was a comfortable decision, like you said. So makes sense.
Yeah. There was one more part to it to add. So my elder brother is an artist.
Okay.
So he also happens to be like, just switching over from his regular education into a fine arts. So he pursued a professional course in fine arts. And at this early 2000 and all these education lines were totally different. So it was something new. And I'd seen him pursuing fine arts and into some professional college, and where the subjects were totally different. So that is one more which I noticed across. Basically, if you have a certain incline and interest, you can always take it quite easy, comfortably learn it, and achieve something better in those.
Of course.
So
You have to be interested in what you're doing, or you have to be passionate about it, or of course, you have to be curious enough to learn everything about it.
right. So yeah, I think that's one. And later you have all these friends and all the close associates who are there. And at some stage, yes, over a discussion or maybe over some gathering, somebody put it out, you two brothers are different. The elder brother paints with a brush in different colors. The younger one paints with a coffee in different colors. So I think, yeah, that is something which I still remember, which somebody mentioned. And to an extent, it is a good feeling to hear about that you're doing something different and it's a different industry. And we are happy with that.
Yeah. It's not like a ordinary choice. It's not like a choice that comes to you, okay, I'm done with my 10th grade, then I'll get into coffee. Like I said, there is not that.
Yeah, that was not there, right?
I remember doing a small talk for the school in Pune by the name of PICT, and then there were a couple of hundred children there, and then I was talking about coffee and how coffee can be a career. And to my surprise, everyone over there, when we moved on to a Q&A discussion, everyone had a question to ask, and everyone was interested in coming up and brewing a cup of coffee. So it's good to know options, and it's good to have exposure so that the selection becomes easier. But nonetheless, I think it worked out for you.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah. All done, and now it's passed.
So moving on to the next question, Ram. Let's get a little more technical. Would want to pick your brain. Would want to, more than your experience, would want to also, the audience would also like to learn a couple of more things when it comes to the following topics, because you have been through a lot. So the next question is experience at a farm. So what was your experience when it came to farming? And then what was your experience when it came to post-harvest, which is also called as processing? So you grow the coffee and then you process the coffee. So could you share your experience on the farm and a little bit of technical knowledge about coffee processing, or specifically Indian specialty coffee processing?
Right. Yeah, sure. So yeah, just to start with this topic, I come from Coorg, where we have a small farm. I basically am a third generation into the plantations now, but most of the time, yes, I've been spending in Bangalore and working with a lot of companies all this while. But as a hobby, I do spend a lot of time as I go over there in the plantations and putting my hands in those areas which really needs a relook into it, and how we can modernize it and cope up to the present day trends. So that's something what I'm just looking into the farming, which is just as a hobby, and now it's just getting into those processing lines to make something better for the days to come. So yeah, it started not too long. I would say like maybe for the last 5-6 years. And how it started is also slightly different because my father has been taking care of the farming or the plantation all throughout.
Where exactly is your?
It's in Coorg. It's close by to Madikeri, which is almost like 8-9 kilometers away from the town. And it's basically a small hilly area which is covered with a little bit of a paddy farm, a mixed intercropping of coffee, both Arabica, Robusta, small amount of Excelsior, and we have the paddy farm surrounded with some areca, banana, and a lot of pepper twines, and a couple of other seasonal fruits and what else a typical farm needs in, so everything inside it. And over the years, mainly I would say after 2018, where there was some continued showers, landslides, and all this happening, I think that is one of the phase which gave in a lot of thought. After seeing those natural calamities happening in our place and just the nearby, there was a situation where we were like an island. All three areas or the approach routes were cut off.
Oh.
This was in August.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of landslides, a lot of tree falling in across, and I think the whole of those village happened to be vacated across for a reason and for a alert which was issued across, and some flooding and continued landslides happening for continuous 2 days, 3 days. So I think the scene over there was not really good to have a look into it. You have seen always a place with a lot of people moving around, known faces, familiar faces, and all that. But one of this year, I think, made a lot of change. For almost 15, 20 days or close to a month, you couldn't see many people from that village. Most of them relocated, most of them shifted. And with the infrastructure, it was all getting redone. The natural place, how it was built in or how it existed, changed a lot. The flow of the water also started changing across from one side to the other side.
Exactly. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, like, how do you bounce back? Like
Right.
you said that the roads were just gone.
Right. Yeah. And
How exactly do you rebuild? How exactly do you bounce back?
yes. So I'm just not mentioning just as one farm or a farm, but it's collectively, I think, a lot of farms had this similar effect. A lot of huge places went out or got washed totally, like 5 acres, 7 acres, disappeared.
Farmland disappeared.
The land, it just looked like it is a slush of slurry, just moving across from one to the other side and just staying and covering up things. So it never looked the same how it was, be it a retaining wall or a road or a farm. It never existed after that. And there were some scenes where some houses got destroyed, damaged. The livestock were left free to survive by themselves. And in one of the days also, I just happened to see some of the cows which were following us as well, because they had let it free. There was no people in the village for a few days. With the alert issued, everybody were vacated forcefully. The NDRF team was there, and all those rescue operations were done, and all the livestock were let free. And while walking across, those animals used to follow. So that was, I think, something which never expected to happen across. And with all these things, it was like a lot of people also vacated. They never wanted to come back and restore that property which was damaged and redo and all those things. So I think this was one of the touching moments. And then I thought, okay, let me just lend my hand more into the property where I come in, where I've spent the time, and also to the family, just doing something better, trying to improve something which can be done now, at least, to restore some things, or maybe just to recover something what has been done. And this way where I started spending some time. So the approach was something slowly just getting some streamlining into the plantations. So maybe some old plants getting changed across into some new strains.
Replanting.
Yeah, replanting some new strains, and likewise a few areas which we can look into a better shade management. And then
This is what you call modernizing a farm. What exactly do you mean by that? You mentioned
I think just it's a small revamp, I would call it. Yes, of course, we had some good strain of plants and all that, but some areas I think we just had to balance it out with some shade, with some opening up of the covers, introducing some new varietals into the farms, which can yield a little better crops and carry out a little more of a work with the laborers in the farms, manage it well, look after the proper irrigation.
so modernizing not just increases your yield, but also will give you a better quality of crop.
Quality, and end of the day, for somebody sitting over there, it looks good and people are happy, when you see around and all that, and with the complete greenery and the things looking fine.
Yeah.
It's a peace of mind to stay over.
Yeah. So from what we have discussed in the last episode also with Rohan, is that yes, of course, the farms are beautiful, but there is a lot of work that you have to put in also. It's not that the cherries are going to grow and then you're going to just pick them and you're going to dry them and the job is done. But that's was my second half of the second question about coffee processing. So, could you just share a little bit of more in-depth technical knowledge about any process that you want to pick and highlight?
Right, yeah. So, yes, I think continuing with this, so we were processing coffee as a straightforward commercial processing. So, we used to do natural, the pulp washed coffees and all that, and it used to be sold out. So, what is done over there right now is just a little more of a further implementation into this, just with some extension of the drying yards, introducing some smaller pulpers for doing some special process, modernized pulpers, and some drying beds,
Yeah.
table beds to dry the coffee, storage facilities improved, and this is something which as an infrastructure has been done across very slowly and stage by stage or phase by phase. And into the processing, not doing everything, not all experimentals or not all fermentations. We're just trying to improve it one after the other. So from a very clean washed coffee into a very uniform naturals. There's been a lot of challenge in getting this uniformity in the naturals, which has been
The sunlight.
yeah, I would say with the season to season, there's been a change with the development of the fruit, the climatic conditions, the picking, the harvesting timelines.
On that note, I want to ask you something. Like on my last visit to the farms, I saw this big a drum what we have in a roaster with a fan. So if there is no sunlight, our farmer is actually drying the coffee using an artificial method, or that's like the plan C or the plan D if there is no sunlight. Like, or is it the future or is it the present?
Yeah, I think that's the mechanical dryer. So I think it's getting implemented in most plantations today, because I think the climatic condition with the shift in the weather and the timelines, I think it's always been a challenge to dry coffee. And say even not just dry, but harvest the coffee, process the coffee, dry it, and even store it. So there's been a continued challenge on these lines. So the mechanical dryer helps to an extent, standardize it, get a uniform drying. At least you can count it by the hours, count it by the temperature, consistently what you want to dry, and store it with some particular batches. So that is helping a big time. And of course, the labor is challenge is always there. So mechanical dryers are at least.
But is that changing the final cup, or if it is changing?
Not much.
Bad.
Not much. I think it's for the good itself. It's changing for the good. Of course, you don't do the complete drying over there. You just have a certain levels and a certain moisture which you tend to control in these mechanical dryers. So generally, you just dry it for a day outside, then put it into the mechanical dryers, cut down the temperatures, cut down the moisture to the best extent what you have, and then finally, depending on the sunlight, you can just put it out in the drying yard and then balance it out uniformly.
What is the difference? Sun drying will take 13-15 days, and mechanical will take how much?
Yeah, I think roughly this sun drying 10-12 days to maybe 48 hours, and say 3 days, 4 days or less.
Oh, the operation time is cut down.
Yes,
Significantly cut down.
and it's a matter of a space, matter of a work. So here the drying happens
And you have to
continuously.
do raking also for the uniformity.
Correct. So here it happens continuously. You just need to take care of the source of fuel and monitor across the temperature. Temperature of the drying, and then the moisture percentage.
Of course.
So yes, I think it has both pros and cons, but I think end of the day it matters about how useful is it in the farm, and how conveniently you can control it and balance it out. So of course it is helping across.
Okay. So this also would come under the modernization of.
Yeah, that's next in the plans now. Maybe this season I'm looking forward to one smaller one actually, where we can just have a mechanical dryer.
So I think one of the
Right.
farms that you helped was I think Smita's farm, Ensworth.
Correct. Yeah.
Tried her coffee before you helped, and I've tried her coffee after you helped, and
Right.
there was a significant change on how the bean looked and also how the bean kind of tasted the final cup. So I think
Right. One
value addition was done there.
Yeah, one big significant change over there was shelter or the roofing, which was done in to dry the coffee.
Yeah. I remember when I went there was no roof.
There was no roof, and there was a good sunlight for the first few days, and suddenly the third or the fourth day you used to get a nice rain or a shower, and it was really getting humid, and it was not a proper temperature to dry as well. And now, for the last 2 years, what is happening over there is like one thing is very, very clear. There is a proper temperature control, proper ventilation, the humidity and all those are to an extent manageable. And that's improving the coffee drying and balancing out in the small batches and helping them manage with the timelines as well.
Now I go, it has a different look.
Correct.
It's a different look to it.
Correct. So I think that's been one of the considerable change which happened over there. And post the shelter or the shade, I think then that has mattered a lot for the drying.
Yes.
And of course, it's been all small batches. So with the small batches, it has been getting better and consistent.
One more thing I noticed on my last visit was of course the mechanical dryer was one, and one thing I noticed was the shade, what you mentioned, the poly houses that are now being created. I saw some external heat also provided to the coffee. Like, let's say you build a poly house, but that will help you, it'll just help you avoid the rains, but the coffee is still not getting dried. So I saw some heat mechanism or some heat appliances that are used that are artificially adding heat inside the poly house to dry the coffee. Is that also the future, or is that a thing that a lot of people are planning to use now?
Yes, I think it's basically a solar drying area actually, with a solar light controlled. Of course, it comes with some ventilations for taking out the humidity and balancing it out with the temperature. So it's already implemented in many places. Of course, that is being done on a smaller scale. I'm saying, yeah, it can be done with the large areas, but I think smaller is a better one, where you can just control it very well with the temperatures and all that. So that implementation is already happening in many places.
So a simple sunshine, few days of sunlight can do wonders. And when there is no sunlight, you have to do so much. You have to build poly houses, and then solar, and then mechanical drying. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah, things have changed, I would say like this, you just, you yourself are one person who just monitor everything. You just are the weather, what you call like, you just monitor the weather yourself, and you take your call whether to open the covers and then have the coffee allowed to be spread out and dried. And then make sure that if the weather changes, you're there again to run and cover across the coffee in the drying yard.
I still have a mixed feeling on what the final cup would be, because if you look at it from a theory perspective, if you're controlling all aspects of drying to the ideal moisture, to you having control over the drying period and the number of days, I think the cup should be better. I'm not sure. I think that's the research that I have to do. Maybe take a 13-day or a 15-day sun-dried coffee versus a poly house dried or mechanical dried coffee. Have you done that experimentation?
Not fully into it, but yes, I think there is this slow drying, there is a quick drying. Yes, there is a certain impact for sure in the cup. And yes, I've not tried with a detailed timeline on this, but yes, there is an impact for sure.
So Ram, moving on to the third question, which is also the second phase of your life, which was again a two-part question. One is focused on roasting and the other is focused on Q and R grading. Again, a little bit of your journey and your experience when it comes to roasting, and a bit more technical knowledge if you can share on the Q grading and the R grading part of it.
Yeah, with the roasting, that is one of the phase which is in between the growing and between the brewing. So I think that matters a lot. And the Q gives in a connect for both of these. So for somebody who is into roasting, I think the Q grading or the Robusta grading definitely helps. So that gives you understanding and a connect both into the stages of growing processing and also further into the brewing, what you can do to get something consistent, get something evaluated very right, and you put out the results or the communication in the same global level communications, terminologies,
Yes.
and the same benchmark of the evaluations. So if you have to ask me about the Q, it is just about the evaluation. And the standards, what we look into it is that it's spoken across in one language globally with the similar standards, similar evaluation practice, and describing across the coffee.
Yeah, I roast a coffee here, or someone roasting in Copenhagen would be able to communicate at the same level based on the reading and the evaluation of.
Yeah, with the Q graders, the evaluation of the coffee happens more or less similar inside a particular protocol, and the evaluations has a very, very less deviations. That's basically with the palette what you get calibrated and evaluate, and somebody else doing it in another part of the world. You find very, very minimal difference in the evaluation of the coffee. So you try to look into those aspects, both good and whatever is present in it, what gets highlighted, and you put it out rightly. And so it's a critical evaluation, both good and bad of it, and getting the right results described across. So I'm saying not really evaluating the bad, but trying to give a proper evaluation of it and benchmarking it, what exactly it stands.
On a side note, for all our audience, specialty coffee or Indian specialty coffee life cycle includes a couple of stages. One is the growing stage of coffee, then comes the coffee processing, then comes the roasting of coffee, and then comes Q grading, the evaluation of coffee, and also the brewing of coffee. So those are the 4 stages that determine what coffee has, what flavor notes, or what is the highlight of the coffee, or which coffee is great, which coffee is good. So that's the life cycle of any coffee or Indian specialty coffee particularly. Right. So what has been your experience when it comes to evaluation, judging, and tasting of a lot of Indian coffees? What do you feel about an Indian coffee?
Right. Yeah. So I think with the tasting, it's almost now 15 or 17 years close by or more.
17 years.
So I've been tasting, and that's been one of the first things which was started as a taster, and that's been continuing across in every stages, cupping. And yes, also the evaluation for this several events, be it in the Barista Championship where there's a espresso, there's a milk beverage, or into any other cupping related stuff. So tasting and evaluation both has been going together for the last many years. And I think there is a lot of changes which has come into place from what it was in the very early 2000 till date. So with the standards, with the practice, with the protocols, and finally with the coffee, there's been a lot of improvements.
Yeah, of course.
So yes, I was fortunate enough to taste all the coffees from majority of the almost all coffee growing areas of India, be it from the northeast, be it from the tribal growing areas of Orissa, Andhra, and then the typical South Indian coffee growing areas 15 years ago or more.
And what is that significant change 15 years ago to now?
Yeah, I think with the parameters of the coffee visually, I think it was looking a little different as a very dark green, bluish green from the northeast.
Okay.
And today, yes, you can't make out a difference between the coffee what is grown in the northeast region to the southern region. More or less, it looks similar. So earlier, it was more of an organic coffee. And roasting those coffee were really a challenge.
Organic as in no use of pesticides or
Nothing. And say people used to grow coffee plants just besides their behind their house, and harvest it across, bulk it, mix it, and it was early stages of the plantation, initiation of proper plantations and all that. The coffees in those times were organic. Roasting those coffees were a challenge. Basically, it used to deform a lot. So the shape and size used to deform as the temperature were being incorporated into the beans. So the coffees from Northeast, as you roast, the visually it was looking really bad. So the center cuts were never intact. It used to open up, and it used to break and all that. So a visual, it was not really that good looking. But today it is more or less superb. It's good, very clean, and visually it is good. So that's been one of the changes. And with the taste wise, even today some of these tribal grown coffees and all those are equally good, very clean processed, very clean tasting with a long lasting coffee finish and no off notes. Earlier there used to be a lot of off notes coming in across, earthy, muddy. With the storage, there used to be a lot of spicy notes and all that. But today, I think it is.
Storage is probably an underrated step, I guess, which is also equally important at the farm level, I guess.
So yes, there's been a evolution over the years, and it's all improved, way better. And today, I think some of those coffees are also way better than the traditional coffee growing areas. With the process, with the storage, and overall it looks good, or even at times better.
So one quick question from an education standpoint is, if someone in India today has to become a Q grader, so what would be the steps? What should be my first step to the last step in becoming a Q grader, and what would be your advice to a person who wants to take that up as a career?
Right. Yeah, I think say one is about the long term to be as a taster, and that's where the Q helps in across. For me, it's almost now 7 or 8 years since I just got into it. I just finished 1-2 calibrations and continuing with it. So for somebody who wants to get into the Q newly, will have to have a experience of a cupping, a formal cupping, just to understand what goes into a proper cupping standards, understanding the coffee, the water, the temperature, the cupping protocol. But the basics is very important to be understood prior. Experience to that, to understand how the coffees come out with different variations, in terms of the plant material, in terms of the roasting, in terms of the chemical change as a process related, is something to be picked up. So this comes only by tasting, only by the experience. And then getting into the Q is basically a furthermore defined course or the curriculum where multiple topics are discussed in detail, followed by a practical exam. And the Q is about all the sensory aspects, the smell, the sight, the taste. So it needs an overall experience of all the parameters. So somebody planning to get into a Q or certified as a Q definitely has to have a certain experience to pick up things, grasp together. And the second most important thing is about the batch, or at the Q venue, you have a group of people who is also cupping coffee. And you need to be in a standard cupping protocol in terms of the description, in terms of the ratings and the rankings. So from the tasting to the rankings or the evaluation criteria is something which you need to correlate properly. So you taste a coffee, you taste a particular character, a body or a acidity or a flavor. You need a reasoning to write exactly what is that body, the acidity, You need to describe that. You need a flavor very thoroughly put out and correlate to the ranking what it stands for. And as a group, it is always a challenge when you have all new cuppers or some experienced cuppers, some seasoned cuppers in the group. So basically, Q also looks into those standardization, not just as a tasting, but as a language, how you put it out in terms of the numbers, in terms of the evaluation. So that also matters. So you're good as a cupper, you can pick up notes, you need to write it, you need to put it out thoroughly, and you need to put out the right scores as well. So this is what it matters. And I think for somebody trying to pursue it needs to go through a certain practice, a certain experience, and with the conditions as a group and as a team over there on a same table, it gets quite challenging at times. And most of them get nervous as well.
Yeah, of course. That happens.
So yeah, I still remember those 5 days are quite challenging, or maybe 6 days or even 7 days are quite challenging days. So even for the experienced couples, it's not easy, depending on some subjects, depending on some of the exercises. And yeah, it gets tricky as well.
Okay. Thank you for that information. So moving on to your current phase in life, which is more centered around brewing and technology in brewing, which also before the podcast we were talking on how from pour over you have now moved to espresso. You're having more espresso because you're more involved into the technology and what value it adds when it comes to brewing. So could you just tell us what phase of your life are you in right now? What is your day-to-day and what exactly that you do now?
Right. Yeah. So right now I've just switched over to Cimbali Group. It's basically a 110-year-old Italian company which is into the manufacture of espresso.
Of course, we order.
Yes. And under that there are some 4 brands, and it's about the coffee equipments.
Okay.
Grinders.
So espresso machines and grinders.
Yes. So I would put it like this. It's basically about solution selling today to the industry in terms of the technologies, in terms of the classification of the coffee brewing equipments, what we have in.
Okay.
So what's fascinating to switch into this mode after these many years is to make it as one full circle. So I spent time in all these stages where it was into the roasting, some cafe and all that, and now into the precise coffee equipments, or I would call it like into some precision coffee equipments.
Okay.
Today, I would call it like it's not just a brewing of a espresso; it's a advanced espresso brewing.
Oh.
So, yes, yeah. All this while we were just pulling out 30 ml of espresso.
Yeah.
So yes, today we have a lot more of controls to pull that 30 ml of espresso and bring out a significant difference into that cup. And this is supported with some technology, which is coming with the machines.
Okay.
So that is something interesting, and just stepping onto it. It's been several months, and yeah, still the learning is on.
Okay.
Along with the experience, and it's going good.
So, what do you think in terms of innovation that we are missing in our country? Like, are we ahead of time? Are we still catching up? Or we have a long way to go in terms of understanding how to brew a great cup of coffee, or in terms of understanding the machine in itself? From what I am seeing nowadays is the whole espresso brewing is getting complicated day by day. Like you call it the workflow management, or you call it the barista workflow. Like before, it was just grounding your coffee, then tamping it, and then brewing your shot as per the time and the weight of it. But now there is molders that you're aware of, there is air pockets that you're aware of, there is WDT tool that you're aware of, there is distribution tool that you're aware of, and now you have screens that you're adding to your portafilter, and then you're brewing an espresso. So as a country, are we on the right path, or are we still behind? What do you feel now that you are a part of a larger group? at dealing in advanced machines. Do you feel we have a long way to go, or we are missing out?
I think we are catching up with the global trend. We are nowhere behind in terms of the equipment and the technology. But I think, yes, with the implementation, I'm say in the field, as it comes into the place where it is sitting across or getting installed and all that, yes, it's a matter of a little bit of a time. But I think we are very well coping up with the global industry. We are on par. Yes, the difference what you can see is with the numbers. Of course, we are not shifting immediately into that technology trend at this stage. We also have a lot of these existing equipments, which is also from the last many years. So the transition is a little slow, but with the modern day, whatever is coming up as newly executed projects are all catching up with the global trends. So yeah, we have always heard about this second wave, third wave, and the fourth wave. So I think, yeah, we are progressing equally good in terms of the technology globally.
From what I have seen, every home brewer that I've met, or every Indian brewer sitting at home and brewing, is way more advanced. Has a lot of technical knowledge and advanced and precision brewing. Like in the first episode, also when we were talking about a friend of mine, I have certainly learned a thing or two from him, and he's just home. He's experimenting. He has a lot of equipment. He has a lot of coffee. So, but as opposed to, let's say, you giving a Slayer espresso machine to a cafe, I don't think whether the person who's eventually going to work on the Slayer has that much knowledge or the curiosity to experiment with. Do you also feel that sort of a gap, like a home brewer is way more technically advanced than a person brewing at a cafe?
Yeah, I think, see, it has two aspects. So the home brewer might be much more innovative and trying to invent and get something better. And today, yes, there's a lot of implementation which is coming into the home brewing segment as well, with some of the controls on the brewing, some digitalization into some equipments to get some consistency, the repeated brewing recipes. So I would say, like, both are equally good going on, but what you see is there is for sure a big growth in the home brewing.
Yes.
And especially into the home espresso brewing, that's been growing rapidly.
Oh, that also?
Yes. The smaller machines are sitting in the houses.
Mm-hmm.
So people are more inclined to have some espresso at home as well. And that gives a room for experimenting. And that seems to be a global trend which is growing. And on the other side, with the cafe, it is about a lot of R&D, which is going on to be prepared for the next many years to come. On one angle,
Cafe also has their own challenges, I guess.
yes, and for a specialty cafe, it's about the coffee offerings, what you can do it uniquely different, to be separated across, and how we can always keep improving, that continued improvement. So I think, considering those angle, the modern machines with a lot many controls, lot many variations which can be achieved by brewing in multiple ways.
Could you tell me about one particular technology as such of a machine that you're working?
Yeah, I think I can just put it out, like, with these machines of Slayer, which is getting manufactured in the US and going all around the world. It's about the precision brewing, or pulling out a advanced espresso, a much better espresso. So here it gives us a room to control across a lot more of variations than an ordinary machine, where you can control the flow rate. You can control the pressure in which the coffee is getting brewed, and at a stage where the processing is done, the roasting is done, and still, if you feel like you can control even better in the cup, you have this machine where you can control it in 4 or 5 different ways and bring out a unique espresso into your cup. Say, like, you want it with the less acidity in your cup, You want it with a less bitter at the finish, more rounded, velvety. And if you want a espresso to be stretched across with a similar body, and if you need, or maybe say it like you can pull out an espresso with a much finer grind size. It need not be the same espresso grind size setting. You can grind it finer and control it much better with the consistency while you're pulling out the shot.
Nice.
So I would say that it's spreading across and giving you a bigger room to control your brew. So this is fascinating for somebody as a roaster, somebody as a specialty coffee, that trying out espresso differently using the same raw material. So you don't have to vary with your roast, but you need to just change some grind size. You just change across with the pulling over of the shot, and you taste it across and you enjoy it.
So advanced precision brewing.
Yes. So so I think this advanced espresso brewing is something which is now going around in the market and globally. So I've also seen some cafes where there is a standard 2-group machine which is just used for the home coffees and the regular coffee. And for somebody who is just ordering a espresso, there is a dedicated single group machine.
Yes.
Where it goes with some precision settings and certain protocol on those specialty coffee, what it stands, and that's something which is just picking up. So that's changing, and more of attention is coming into the black coffee, be it espresso or any other brewed ones.
Yeah.
So that's the trend today, I would call it.
Thanks, Ram, for that.
Thank you.
The second half of the question was the innovation part.
Right.
Are we innovating enough? Like, what is the latest innovation that you've seen in this advanced precision brewing that we're talking about?
Right. Yeah. So we have this pressure profiling. We also have the flow rate controls. So just to touch upon this part of the Slayer, these machines are slightly unique compared to the others. So there is a precision flow rate control which is coming in, which you can set it across. This is as a resultant of using a needle valve technology, which happens to be patented.
Needle
valve
Okay.
technology, so which happens to be patented for Slayer.
Okay.
So we have a flow rate which we can manually control across in terms of brewing the espresso. So this gives you area where you can stretch across your coffee to cut down certain parameters which you wish.
So is it similar to the paddle that we have on My Strada?
It's more or less similar, but here we also have a flow rate control which is much precise.
Okay.
Where the flow of the water is coming in a very precise and calibrated way and consistently into your coffees. And the second one is, like I earlier mentioned, you can also use a very fine ground coffee to play.
Which ideally would choke the...
Yes, which ideally chokes and also builds up a little pressure on your machines. But over here, the machine is designed with the flow rate controls, which also can balance out and pull out a very...
Still, if there is no way for water to escape, come through the puck, how will it?
So we have this blooming and the pre-infusion stage, and we also have a dial-in and the calibration which we do across, depending on the tamping, depending on the flow rate adjustments, how we can play around. So this gives you that ample room to adjust on your espresso and control the quality in the cup. So yes, with this technology, what impacts is basically the cup quality.
Yeah.
So I think that is something which is standing out, and generally these coffees are called as a Slayer shot.
Slayer shot.
So
Technology that you've coined.
yeah. So it's somebody just walking into your coffee shop and just asking, okay, give me a Slayer shot rather than an espresso.
Oh.
So
Nice.
I think it's something about the communication. It's about talking, explaining, pulling out a coffee and giving that experience to one of your usual coffee drinker, and then he is fixed onto those coffees.
Next.
So I think this is a significant step which is coming out today and to improve across cup quality. Of course, specialty coffee is about taste and preference. So you have 10, 20 people walking into your coffee shop. And for somebody who wants it a little more better and a little more improved, you have a way more to control on it and make him taste 3 or 4 different ways how you can brew it from one of the blends, and make sure that he will opt for one of it, and then you can repeat it.
Good idea. A discussion we need to have
Right.
this episode.
Yeah.
Some catalogs and some quotations, I'll leave.
Right. Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? No, it's going to be a different market altogether. I think there's been a lot of trend overall, and people also continuously and constantly trying to improve beyond a certain level of control. So you yourself are a roaster. You have a good control on your green coffee. You know what is the best. You have been roasting coffee yourself. You know the right time, temperatures, and the right coffee, what fits in. But for the brewing, how much of a control do you have in today? So you just have a button, start, stop. Beyond that is very less. I think a little bit on the grind size adjustments. But I think today it counts even more over there.
Yeah. I think previously it was just pre-infusion, boiler temperature, and grind size, like you mentioned.
Right.
Nowadays, you can say there are 3 or 5 more parameters that you can control and program.
True. Yep. And flow rate makes a very big impact.
Flow rate, yes.
Yeah. So basically on the acidity of the coffee, the bitterness of the coffee. So these are 2 parameters which you are able to control today.
Good.
So this is going beyond the controls on the green coffee and the roasting.
Yes.
And in your cafe or maybe in another cafe, you can definitely get this controlled.
Perfect. Thanks for that last bit on the innovation. Also brings me to the last question for this episode today. A very simple question for a man like yourself, who's been into coffee for long. What do you think is the present trend in coffee in general in India, pertaining to specialty coffee or coffee in general? What's the trend?
Yeah, I think just to recap all this, I would put it like this on 3 segments. At the farm level or at the plantation, yes. Overall, Indian coffees are good. I think today everybody is doing a good job inside the Indian market with the way the specialty coffee has been bought out to the market. And I'm happy to see this across India, not just as one place or as one clustered market. So you travel across any part of India today, you always have a possibility of getting a very fresh coffee. And it's available in most of the coffee shops. So that's been a tremendous achievement in the last many, many years. The coffee is improved, the quality is much better and fresh. And that's been a change which has happened across.
Yes.
And with the plantation and with the coffees, I think now it's the time to go global. Take the Indian coffees to the global platform.
Yeah, but yes.
Yes. So I think we need to make a little bit of a noise on the global market about the Indian coffee, the Indian speciality, and showcase it to the global market. So it's nowhere less compared to some origins.
I would agree with you on that.
Right. So I think one trend is this. Now go global with the Indian coffees.
Yes.
So be it for any plantations or roasters or into any other cafe ventures, it's a good time to look into the next stage. And as a roasting, yes, again, you know the market better. Like what is the trend which is going on with coffees, how it is changing in the market, home brewing to the cafes. There's been a significant improvement. People want it fresh. People have a clear choice today, a light roast or a dark roast, or maybe even a blended coffee. So those are very, very clearly defined. Personalized choice is always coming.
I think that's what the third wave of coffee is about.
Right. So that is growing across, I would call it, in many places, many towns. That's very good. And the third is the brewing. So today a lot of technology, a lot of innovations going on in a very big way. And that's the future to come into the coffee. So that's gonna spread across and that's gonna extend altogether. So I think, yeah, collectively, if you see across, it's going to be a big business from the business perspective. For the consumer, there is plenty of choice in terms of the coffee offerings and customizations, what can be bought out.
Yeah. Both in
And
terms of brewing and I think the selection of roasted coffee.
right, and also the equipments. So today you have everything very compact. You can carry it. You can have a coffee on the go.
Yes.
You can sit at home and have a experience of a cafe-like beverage at home.
Yes.
So I think these are the future options, which is all picking up and growing big time.
Yeah. Looks like we have an interesting future. I would say to an extent present also, because all these things are already available now and it's just getting better
Right.
day by day.
Yeah, it's getting sharper, I would say. Like as people are using these equipments, as people are experiencing it, they have a very clear choice what they want. So from a small home machine, which was just having a press of a button, which was delivering a black coffee, today we have some machine which is just having a similar technology for a home brewer as well. So yeah, it's about that clear choice, what they want to pick up and start brewing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ram. Like I said in the beginning of the episode, there are a handful of people you will meet who have been a part of the entire life cycle of coffee, which is farm, processing, roasting, tube grading, brewing, and then innovation and technology in brewing as well. So always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm glad that this wider audience through this platform of Graceful Coffee Roasters, everyone was able to meet you virtually and get to know you. Thank you so much again. Thank you for making this trip. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. See you guys in the next episode. This is Behind the Coffee, and this is me, Chirag, your host and roast master at Graceful Coffee Roasters.